We had been on the road for hours, the desert landscape stretching endlessly around us. With every passing minute, the fuel gauge dropped a little more. As the driver, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of anxiety. "Are you sure it's this way?" I asked, trying to hide my nervousness. "I think so, Lucas, the makeshift navigator with the GPS, replied. "But it says the nearest city is still about 50 kilometers away. I'm not sure if the fuel will last that long." Yara, in the back seat, was quiet, probably as worried as the two of us. That's when she suddenly exclaimed, "Look, over there. I see something." I followed the direction she was pointing, and to our surprise, a small town appeared on the horizon, along with what seemed to be a gas station. I grabbed Lucas's GPS and confirmed that there was no indication of any city or road in that direction. "This is strange," I commented. "But we don't have a choice. We need fuel." I turned the wheel and drove down the dirt road to the mysterious town. Upon reaching the gas station, an attendant came to meet us. "Good afternoon, folks. Want to fill up the tank?" The attendant asked with a serious expression. "Yes, please," I replied, trying to be as friendly as possible. As the attendant began to refuel the car, I noticed Lucas watching him closely, with a look of fear and apprehension. The attendant, in turn, seemed indifferent. "Do you get many visitors around here?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "No," the attendant replied, focused on his work. "It's strange that the GPS didn't show this town," I continued, hoping for more interaction. "It happens," he said, without elaborating. "Have you lived here for a long time?" I persisted, curious. "Yes," he answered, still almost expressionless. "It's a pretty quiet place, it seems," I commented, looking for any clue to understand the place better. "It could be," he replied curtly. The tension in the air was palpable. I paid for the gas and, before heading to the convenience store, asked my friends, "Do you want to come with me to the store?" Lucas nodded and decided to join me. Yara, on the other hand, said she would stay in the car. She grabbed her makeup kit and started touching up her makeup using the rearview mirror. The reason someone would worry about looking good while on the road was still a mystery to me, but it must be a woman thing. We entered the store and went straight to the shelves of snacks and other items. Strangely, the shelves were somewhat empty, which was unusual for a deserted town. I looked around, trying to find something appetizing, but the store seemed almost deserted, with only a few items scattered about. "This is a little weird," I commented to Lucas, picking up a bag of chips and examining the label. "Yeah, it is," he replied, still visibly disturbed. "It doesn't seem like a very busy place, but why are the shelves so empty?" "I don't know. Maybe the supplies here aren't very regular," I suggested, trying to find a logical explanation. As I searched for something to eat, I decided to ask Lucas what was bothering him so much. I took the opportunity when we were alone to bring up the topic. "Lucas, what happened earlier?" I asked, trying to be as gentle as possible. Lucas looked at me with a confused expression. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you seemed disturbed when you saw the attendant. He had a strange look on his face," I explained, trying to be more specific. "He looked somewhat embarrassed and diverted his gaze to the floor. After a moment of hesitation, he finally started to speak. The attendant's face. It was very similar to someone who hurt me badly in the past." Lucas then grabbed the collar of his shirt and pulled it down, revealing a burn mark just above his chest. The sight of the scar was clear and painful. I didn't press him for more details. I had a sense that Lucas hadn't had a happy past, and as someone who had also faced their own personal hell, I perfectly understood the desire not to talk about those things. "I understand," I said, trying to convey sympathy. "If you need to talk about it later, I'm here." Lucas nodded, visibly relieved not to have to go into more detail. We picked up a few things we wanted and started walking to the checkout. Along the way, Lucas pointed to some stuffed animals on the walls. "That's odd," he commented. "I don't remember seeing these when we came in." My heart began to race. It wasn't just the fact that I also didn't remember the stuffed animals. It was that they triggered awful memories for me. I quickly looked away, trying to calm myself. However, when I glanced to the side, I came face to face with a shelf full of alcoholic beverages. They weren't just any drinks. They were the same brand that filled the shelves of the house where I was born. The sight of the bottles brought a wave of painful memories I was trying to forget. Lucas noticed my discomfort and followed my gaze. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I am," I replied quickly, trying to maintain my composure. Just remembering some things. I couldn't focus. The smell of the alcohol, the familiar label. and the oppressive atmosphere of the store gave me an unsettling sense of déjà vu. Trying to stay composed, I turned to Lucas. "Let's pay and get out of here," I said, with an urgency I couldn't hide. As we approached the checkout, a gruff, deep voice came from the counter. "These trophies are a testament to what it means to be a real man around here." The words, spoken by the man behind the counter, made my body freeze. That phrase, "real man," haunted me to this day. There was no escaping the panic whenever I heard it, even if it wasn't directed at me. I looked at the cashier and saw an old man. Unshaved beard, stern expression, and wearing a military jacket. His appearance evoked disturbing memories of someone I'd prefer to forget. The shock and fear nearly paralyzed me. Mentally, I forced myself to calm down, repeating that the monster I called my father was dead and could no longer hurt me. But the man behind the counter, with his unsettling resemblance, was stirring my deepest emotions. I tried to ease the tension with a light comment. "Looks like this place really knows how to keep a peculiar decor." "Huh." The man only grunted, showing no reaction to my attempt at casual conversation. His lack of response only intensified the discomfort I was feeling. "There's a motel nearby if you want to spend the night," the cashier suggested, his tone impassive. "Thanks, but we're just passing through," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "The town gets more interesting at night. You're missing out," he insisted, with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Thanks again, but we really need to move on." I declined again, keeping my voice firm. I quickly paid, leaving the money on the counter, and Lucas helped me grab the bags. Yara was outside, looking worried and then visibly relieved when she saw us. "We need to get out of here as fast as possible. There's something very wrong with this place," Yara said, her voice trembling. The attendant was sweeping the front of the station, his methodical and silent movement contrasting with the growing unease in the air. As I watched him work, I noticed a sudden change in the environment around us. The sky, which had been clear and bright when we arrived, was now covered with dark, threatening clouds. The darkness seemed to expand rapidly, swallowing the horizon. Moreover, a thick and sinister mist began to form, enveloping the station and the surrounding road like an almost oppressive barrier. The air became heavy, creating an environment that was far from what we encountered upon arrival. "I agree, this town is weird," I began to say, but Yara interrupted me. "That's not what I meant," she whispered, looking nervously around, and signaled for me to look in the car's rearview mirror. I peeked into the mirror, straining to understand what Yara wanted me to see. At first, the scene appeared calm, but soon something began to reveal itself with a disturbing twist. The reflection of the attendant sweeping the front of the station did not match what I expected. Instead of an ordinary man, there was a macabre and surreal presence. The reflected image was of a thin, pale creature with an almost ethereal and frightening appearance. This entity had no face, just a smooth, empty surface where the face should be, and no hair. Its long, razor-sharp, and grotesquely disproportionate nails gripped the broom handle with a strength that seemed almost supernatural. A chill ran down my spine, and my mind struggled to comprehend what I was seeing. I tried to rationalize the vision, believing it might be a trick of the light or an illusion caused by the mist. I turned to look directly at the attendant, but he appeared normal at first glance, an ordinary man performing an ordinary task. However, the contrast between the attendant's normal appearance and the terrifying image in the mirror was unmistakable and alarming. The reflection revealed a presence that did not align with the reality I saw before me, and this discrepancy only heightened the discomfort I felt. "Oh God, what is that?" Lucas murmured, his voice filled with panic as he noticed the same thing I did. Yara, with a look of growing terror, replied while watching the people who were now beginning to appear on the sidewalk, something that had been deserted before. "He's not the only one." The cashier's words, "The town gets more interesting at night," echoed in my mind with a disturbing clarity, like a warning that was beginning to make terrible sense. The casual tone with which he mentioned the town's interesting at night now seemed like a veiled threat, a harbinger of what was truly to come. I adjusted the car's rearview mirror, trying to focus on the figures starting to appear on the street, and my heart froze as I saw what was being reflected. The rearview mirror revealed a scene that was absolutely terrifying. It wasn't just a few thin, pale creatures, but a whole group of them, emerging from the shadows and lining up along the sidewalk. Their skeletal bodies and translucent skin gave the impression that they were on the brink of existence, as if they were distorted projections of reality. Their faces lacked human features, leaving only pale, smooth skin where faces should be. Their eyes, if they could be called that, were empty, but the sensation was that they were watching us with relentless coldness and almost palpable malice. Each of these beings seemed aware of our presence, their rigid postures and intense stares indicating focused attention and sinister intent. It was as if they were waiting for us, ready to confront us or lead us to some terrible fate. The feeling of being hunted, of being at the center of an inescapable nightmare, intensified as they continued to stare at us with unsettling determination. This instant revelation made my blood run cold, and an overwhelming sense of panic took over me as I desperately tried to act to keep everyone safe. "Hurry! Get in the car," I said, my voice filled with urgency. Lucas and Yara hurried into the vehicle, and I started the engine, quickly adjusting my seatbelt. Suddenly, the attendant appeared in front of the car, as if he had emerged from nowhere, blocking our exit. His face was illuminated by the weak light of the street lamps, casting sinister shadows that highlighted his stern expression. He approached slowly, moving with an unsettling calm. In a grave, almost paternal tone, he said, "It's not a good idea to be out at night. You must be tired from your trip. Consider staying at the motel. It's better for you." His insistence seemed almost ritualistic, as if he were trying to convince us to stay for some unknown purpose. The sense of impending danger was palpable, and the desire to flee now became a desperate urgency. "Thanks, but we have to leave now." I declined his offer with the same politeness I had used with the cashier. The attendant remained there, standing in front of the car, as if he was waiting for us to change our minds. My fingers trembled slightly as I shifted into reverse and began to back up quickly. The feeling of being watched and that something was terribly wrong intensified with every movement I made. As the car slowly pulled away from the gas station, I couldn't help but take one last look in the rearview mirror. The empty eyes of the creatures on the sidewalk were still fixed on us, and the attendant remained in the same spot, watching our departure with an expression that mixed disdain and frustration. The environment around us seemed to close in even more, with the dense fog and dark clouds obscuring any trace of light. A heavy silence settled in the car, filled with mixed tension and relief. The sound of the engine was almost the only noise present, resonating in the quiet night. The road ahead seemed endless and strangely longer, as if the place itself were trying to pull us back. The feeling of being pursued was almost physical, and I pressed the accelerator as hard as I could. Every minute felt like an eternity as we struggled to escape that place. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we found the main road. I looked back, expecting to see some sign of the town, but to my surprise, the dirt road we had deviated from was simply gone. There was no trace of the town or the gas station. It was as if it had never existed, an illusion or nightmare that dissolved into the air. With a mixture of relief and unease, I threw the shopping bags out of the window, not wanting any remnants of that strange and disturbing place in our car. The bags flew to the side of the road, scattering into the darkness. I knew we needed to move on, far enough to leave that nightmare behind. "What was that?" Lucas asked, his voice still trembling. "I don't know," I replied, trying to stay calm. "But we're never stopping at a place like that again." The car continued along the main road, while the silence persisted, each of us lost in our own thoughts about what we had just experienced. The fear and tension still lingered in the air, but the hope of leaving behind what felt like a nightmare gave us the strength to keep moving forward.